Untitled Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
As we prepare for a Toronto Maple Leaf Dallas Stars game, I'm not going to rat anybody out, but moments ago, all I heard was, "Hey, Derek Brandeo, can you help us get the Masters on one of the monitors here in studio?"
Well, hold on now. Hold on. I did that as a courtesy to everyone in the room. Priorities.
Now, there's some serious prep going into our show.
Yeah.
So if you do get a reference every once in a while to, "Oh my God, how did he miss that?" you'll know where it's coming from. So, Sammy, I mean, we're going to go 2 hours once again like we do every day. We'll bring you all the Toronto Maple Leaf analysis that we have, talk about things around the National Hockey League. But something tells me that we're starting out today's show with a little bit of a Tiger conversation.
Yeah, this is Christmas morning for me, fellas.
Oh, me
Thursday of the Masters. Tiger's playing. He's about to have a swing from the pine straw here. Doesn't look like a great drive on 14. Anyways, it's really hard for me to talk about hockey today. I just want to come on here and break the whole thing down, but that's why we do our jobs, you know?
So, JB, best bets. Where was Tiger prior to teeing off today? What were the thoughts or what was the money line on this guy actually competing?
Well, I think he was about 45 to 1 when he went off. What do you get him at, Sammy?
I woke up this morning and put a little bit of money on him at 66 to 1.
66 to 1. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's not a great bet, obviously.
No, it's an incredibly bad bet.
Sentimental
yes.
Bet. But, he's Tiger Woods, and you just never know. It's
okay.
What is the overlap between hockey and golf? I got to ask, why do hockey players
love it? Because it's
golf?
The opposite of everything about our game.
It's a good point.
And I don't have to beat you up. I don't have to challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is me versus me and that stupid little white ball.
I think that's the frustration factor because we all believe as hockey players, I got me mastered. It's the other people I'm having trouble with. It is. I think it's maybe that internal struggle that we don't get to have in hockey. And you're right. It's a little more peaceful. It's a little more
if I
Some
don't
transferable skills too,
and also seasonal flip. Right, you have the summer off for the most part.
When things aren't going well for me on the ice, I can still also revert to
do something,
pulling you down to my level. Right?
I'm not happy today, so guess what? Neither are you.
Neither are you. And I'm going to make you as miserable as I am right now because I can't get a bounce. I don't have any luck.
Yeah.
My ice time's going down. But you can't do that in golf.
So you're just stewing it.
That's why you love it, because it's the opposite of everything that you think about against your competitor.
Yeah.
Your competitor is you in golf, ultimately.
Yeah.
Some transferable skills too.
The motion.
Power, hands.
Yeah.
Like if you got a good clapper, you're probably going to have a good drive. If you got good hands around the net, you're probably going to have good hands around the green.
I got to give a shout out today. Clark Gillies today would have been his 68th birthday today. Big Masters guy. Him and I always in touch a lot during the tournament. Unbelievable hands. Everyone thinks, Clarky punching everyone in the face. Guy scored a share too. Around the greens, velvet. Just velvet mitts. So some love for him today.
So did he ever get a chance to play at Augusta? Because I was with Brian Leach on the weekend, and we knew the Masters were coming up. We had a conversation, and I asked him, have you come close to playing Augusta? And 5 times he's played.
No way.
Like,
so Clark hadn't. He hadn't, but he had a line on it. Lemieux's the guy. Lemieux's the contact. Mario knows. I don't know if he's close to being a member there or what, but he knows people. He was working on it. It's still some of the only thing on my bucket list is get to Augusta.
So it's the hands. I mean, Tiger didn't hurt his hands in the car accident.
He still got the hands.
Right?
No, you're not.
And he's not walking well.
He's ginger.
He's ginger.
Very ginger.
But the hands seem fine today. Par golf is really good.
Well, it's actually a great thing about hockey is that, about golf is you play. So I've gone out with my 72-year-old stepdad. You can go out with a 10-year-old. There's different ways to get it around the track, and Tiger's doing it different than he did.
He does. That's
his whole career.
That's the thing that stuck out to me through 14 holes, 13 holes here so far. Is just how much different he looks.
Yeah.
He looks like a different person. Older, slower. The tempo is much different. But if there's anyone who can think their way around Augusta National, it's Tiger Woods. Hello, friends.
Well, and as the power dropped off,
yes.
Everybody's saying he still has some pop, but not as much.
Not as much pop. And I don't think it's ever coming back.
Nah, he's hitting at 285 today on average, I think, somewhere around there.
All right, I'm just noticing. Oh, yeah. He just,
my
he slimmed
comebacker for par 14.
Just go home. All right, come on. Back off.
Are you too good for your
this
home?
ain't a golf show.
All right.
This is a hockey show.
All right.
God,
Knock it off, Sammy.
That's a tough comebacker.
Oh, we derailed. Okay, hockey.
Okay, the Leafs. Super hot against Tampa. Super cold against Florida. Where does Goldilocks stand here coming into Dallas tonight?
Well, I got to believe the coaching staff has talked them into a place where they're feeling pretty good about their hockey team. We heard the quotes from Sheldon Keefe yesterday, and you didn't necessarily love the pure positivity, but tough to dial out to any sort of distance and not think that they've been playing really well for a run of hockey games here, as disappointing as the last result was. I think they're a little bit in a bit of a letdown spot here because they have played top teams in the East and teams that are going to be playoff opponents, scrapping for seeds, and now it's the Dallas Stars. And no disrespect to Dallas, but that doesn't catch your attention the same way Florida, Boston, Tampa does.
It doesn't, but you look at a Dallas Stars team that's fighting to make the playoffs. They do have a little bit of a cushion when it comes to games played, but Vegas is rather hot. And
Vegas is hot.
That's
despite the loss last night.
Despite the loss to Vancouver last night, they have the ability to control things in their own hands, and the Leafs have to be aware of that. I really believe that we'll see a team not too rattled coming off of a game against Florida. I really think that the Leafs will settle in here nicely, and they are the better team. Their stars are much better than Dallas's stars. And Ben and Sagan, they're just in a better place. This should be a good rebound night for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, in theory, as I mentioned, it's just this team has such a history of playing up and down to people. One thing they did do, which I know we'll get to a little later, is they shuffled up the D pairs. Liljegren out tonight, Lyubushkin back in. Giordano, Hall, Muzzin, Brody, Riley, Lyubushkin. That's something we can get to. And Jack Campbell going back in. After, I don't want to call it good, bad, or otherwise, a weird Florida experience.
So, 48 hours, the Shalgren, and yes, I mean, for me personally, talking about what you witnessed, what you saw, how it all played out, the fact that I didn't like Shalgren either pulling himself or feeling like you weren't well enough to play the next 3 minutes, but you wanted to go back, and then having the coach saying, no, you're not going back. Let's stick with Campbell now that he's warmed up. Well, whatever the scenario is, certainly when I looked at it, initially, it's how do you trust this guy moving forward? In saying that, what we didn't discuss the other day was the bigger picture, and the true lack of depth doesn't start with Shalgren being behind now Jack Campbell, but if you look at the organization as a whole and what's going on with the Marlies as well, there is a real struggle here on finding capable goalies within the whole organization. Joseph Wall is still out with a separated shoulder.
Yeah.
And even in the Marlies organization, they're scrambling, JB.
They are. Ian Scott has only played, 7 games in 2 years, maybe 1 this year, something like that. They had 2 PTO goalies with the Marlies over the past week or two. Guys that they're scrambling. Like Hutchinson is clearly the third option for the Leafs. As a guy who got in games for Colorado in the playoffs last year, it's not like he's a complete write-off, but they lost faith in the guy. They gave up on Hutchinson, and I think for good reason. So that he's the next guy, boy, I think they have to give Källgren some more games. They have to get back to feeling good about him because he's the next guy. Just the way it's going to be.
Under different scenarios, Sammy, this guy would be a Marley right now, but to Justin's point, what choice do they have?
Yeah, and I'm just looking at Harry Sateri because I was thinking about it. He still hasn't played.
He's playing tonight.
Oh, he's playing tonight?
Yeah.
It's the first game.
First game tonight. Although I guess he had 4 with Florida some years ago, but this is his first game since coming back.
Okay. Well, that takes my point away. I was going to say, there's just a waste. They took him away from the Leafs, but boy, they could use Harry Sateri.
Someone, right? Just someone else.
I don't know how you don't. Like, and it's not even Marc-Andre Fleury, but you mentioned Wedgwood, who's going against the Leafs tonight. I don't know how you go in without adding another guy. And I've said that from the start.
You know, it certainly feels more desperate now that Mrazek is hurt. Right at the time, at the deadline, you're going, okay, well, we're okay with Campbell. We're okay with Mrazek getting a little better here. Källgren showed well. We're 3 deep. Do we really need to go 4 deep? And all of a sudden, when you lose one guy, it's like, oh, desperation time.
Was it premature of Kyle, off of a small sample size, to think that we're 3 deep?
Yes.
And could that come back and haunt Kyle and the whole organization?
The only point I've made against that
you've left your team that vulnerable.
Yeah.
Outside of Jack.
Yeah, my only pushback to that has been if you go into game 3, like Campbell's going to start, right? You're going to give him a couple of hockey games, and if he loses them and you want to go to your backup guy, it's over. Like you're not winning 4 of 5 against Tampa Bay, Boston, Florida. It almost doesn't matter. It's Jack or bust. Depressing, I know.
Well, that's completely against what you did last year, where you felt like you needed to spend a 3rd rounder for a guy sitting in the stands in Reddick.
Yeah.
So
I think last year, though, they didn't know if Anderson was going to be even able to play. And so maybe Riddick was your backup goalie. You could have asked him.
Would you just not have picked up that conversation in your head 12 months later with Mrazek?
Yeah.
And his injury history?
Where you at? How you feeling, you mean?
Like this guy could drop at any time too, which he did.
And has all year long.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the other point is maybe even though it's been a small sample size with Källgren, like there was early indications that this guy might have a pretty good temperament, right? Like he didn't come across in his, those early appearances as being a guy that gets rattled or nervous or.
Yeah, pretty.
So
cool.
I still would like to hear more of a story of what the hell happened in Florida for a guy that was supposed to come in and be this calm, cool, collected guy, not too high, not too low, simple quotes after a game. And
I know they tried to give him the backup job. The media did several times, and he was like, I'm just day by day here, fellas. Make sure you can keep an eye on if they talk today, if they say anything, that'd be great.
He does. Maybe he's earned, even with that small sample size, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt to say this isn't typical of him. This isn't part of his makeup or characteristics. It was a one-off.
Yeah. That's the hope. For sure, that's the hope. And the team has to believe that, too. And he's going to get games. He's going to get games again on the way to playoffs, so he'll have another chance to get back to earning trust.
We got Colby Armstrong in about 5 minutes. He's going to join us, Sportsnet hockey analyst, and also Marty Turco. Of course, very popular goaltender with the Dallas Stars. He's down in Dallas, and he'll help us tee up the game tonight. And Gary Galley in the second hour as well.
It's game time. Let's get hungry.
We're ready for Colby.
We're ready for Colby. As far as the rest of the lineup goes, we assume, we hope, we better see Lyubushkin back in the lineup.
Yeah. And he's back. He's back. So you feel good about that? You know, him and Riley, it's the same spot for Lyubushkin. You like that?
I still would also like to revisit where that decision came from to not
him
think
out.
that he's come in and done everything that has been asked.
You know, this is hindsight is 2020 stuff because I had thought that Liljegren had been playing really good, but it sure would have been nice in that Florida game to have one more guy who you felt could be a banger, could stir it up for your team, you know, protect the front of the net where they obviously got exposed a little bit. It does feel like that was a drop ball, but that's good to know. That's a learning lesson. Like, okay, we're playing Florida. Bush is the guy you want in. Put him in ink. So for being with Riley now, it's like he's back in that role where he's going to play a lot of minutes. You know, what was it? Wasn't the whole thing with Lyubushkin that if you don't give him too much, he's going to be good for you, and if you ask him to do too much, he might get exposed. I just feel like it's a lot to have him with Riley. I just would like him to play kind of third pair somewhere.
Yeah,
18 minutes.
I agree
PK.
with you. I do believe it's a big ask as well to quote unquote be a top pairing defenseman.
Yeah, and now the Leafs are kind of weird in that, like, what would you call their top pair? We always assume Riley's the guy, so that's the top pair. But like Muzzin, what's the middle pair? Muzzin Brody right now, pretty darn good. Giordano Hall, it's pretty good. Lot to like there.
A lot more to like than Muzzin Hall,
Yeah,
which has never gotten on track all season long.
not this year, no. I just think that, you know, last year I talked about our brains and how we have trouble changing our mind. It's like they were set, that's a pair. We know we've got Muzzin Hall because it worked the year before. Time to change the mind on that. They haven't worked. You know, seeing them with other partners is going to be a good thing. Giordano, somewhat similar to Muzzin for Justin Hall. We'll see how that goes. Give them a little bit of run.
All right. Up front, more changes.
Mm-hmm.
Spezza and Clifford out. Is this the way it's going to be? I know as a guy that predominantly was a fourth line guy, man, I hated that revolving door.
In, out.
You're like
I think
anything
teams
else.
like it, though. They like the fourth line, like earn your spot. Every day you're in, you got to earn it and keep it.
Yes. But if there are stretches when you feel good and you feel like it takes time sometimes, and remember, you got 6 to 8 minutes to audition.
Yeah.
You don't have 15 minutes to have a bad shift and
It's
come back with a good
too.
shift.
Because as a winger, you can't control the play. Like, you want to do something. Sometimes as a winger, you
Yes.
just go up and down your side. The play doesn't happen there. And you're like, I guess I'll get off. There goes. Here's one of my minutes.
Sometimes the ball doesn't come to the left fielder, right?
No, you're just like, welp. But I guess if you go through a game like that and you're Clifford, everyone goes, well, it's fine. He hasn't been exposed. Just don't take a dumb penalty in the neutral zone in your 7 minutes.
The slashing penalty is the reason why he's out of the lineup.
It's that thin a line for these guys. Like, Clifford has to play physical, but if he gets called for something, he's not going to play. It's a tough spot. There's no doubt it's a tough spot. But that's the spot he's in. You know,
Was it Sammy that said it's Spezza or Simmons, but
not both?
never both ever again?
Yeah, that's my opinion on the fourth line. I think that
I
those
just think
guys,
they're such different players.
but it's not even about how they play together. It's just about the pace of the line. I don't think those two guys at this point of their career can play against a up-tempo bottom half of a lineup kind of line that they might go up against in the playoffs. I think they just get exposed with the speed. And if you put Simmons out there with Abruzzese, and you put him out there with
Abruzzese.
Abruzzese, and then you put him out there with Blackwell, that kind of gets a little bit of, you know, pace in the line, some guys that can move the boots a little bit, and then that looks a little better with having Simmons out there. But it just, to me,
it's just, I hate I shouldn't say hate it. Don't love having a fourth line where I love Blackwell, excited to see what the ZC kid can do.
it's easy.
But ZC's 5'10", Blackwell's 5'8".
No, 5'9".
Okay, that's what he is. Okay,
5'9". That's what the program says.
And then so, you know, Simmons is there too.
I will say this though, for our buddy Abruzzese.
Yeah,
he looks better to me than Nick Robertson.
You were more impressed than
100%.
just that he got some looks.
Just I think there's just an more natural feel for him.
Yeah.
And his IQ, not like we said, he's a tiny kid.
Yeah.
But so is Nick Robertson. But Nick goes to places that he shouldn't go. I have yet to see that out of this kid. And I think he got some good looks against Tampa Bay, and he seems to be around the right places.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence right now that this guy's now looking at his third game in the National Hockey League. There's something that they really like about him, and I think he's got a chance to be a little bit more effective than Nick Robertson.
It does feel like, something to me where they want to give him a chance and see what he can do and have some sense for. I don't think this guy's going to play a playoff hockey game for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I could be wrong, but
Why?
Well, what's he going to do? He's not going to score, right? I mean,
Hey, there's still a love fest for
new toys,
highly skilled players.
But this would be having Robertson in against Columbus 2 years ago, where it's like,
yes, it is.
It's no good. It didn't work.
You're absolutely right. But then Kyle's going, yes, it will work, and yes, this will be the guy that helps change things. I think there's an excellent opportunity for him to win that spot for game one. I do.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I almost swore at you.
Give me choices then.
Oh, the old guys that aren't playing. It's going to be Spezza, Clifford, Simmons, or Blackwell's in. I don't want to hear anything else. Blackwell's in for me.
That's right. So it's just now Spezza.
Yeah, he's in too.
But Spezza's
so then
fallen
it's
out
Clifford
of
or Simmons.
The shine's a little bit off of Spezza here.
Yeah, he hasn't done much in a long, long time. So, but he's still Jason Spezza. He's been so good in playoffs for them when other people have not been as good. I am interested to see which of Simmons and Clifford is more loved, but I still think your fourth line is going to be Blackwell.
Well, Spezza again has the one dimension that other fourth line guys don't have, and that's the ability to convince your coaching staff that you can play power play minutes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You can be on the ice as a sixth guy.
Swiss Army knife
when
with
you
the
need,
empty net.
when you need a goal, a big play. That's more of an option for Sheldon. So that's the one up that Spezza has over anybody else to get back in the lineup.
For sure.
All right, let's bring in Colby Armstrong, friend of the show, commercial guru.
Oh, you're going to start ripping on me again?
I'm not going to rip on you. Is there anything new coming out?
I haven't been any eating commercials lately, so that's I guess a positive, right?
So
I mean,
you're down 10 pounds?
I'm hovering around the same, you know how to. But I got some stuff from the Avalanche. They were in Pittsburgh here the other day and stayed a few extra days, so I was able to sit down with a few of their players for some playoff content. So that'll be pretty good. But other than that, I haven't had too much action since trade deadline. But it was cool coming up there, Kippy. It's cool seeing the new studios, Bourne. It was nice, and I also Bourne. I'm sure you'd like to hear this. We just finished Mario's fantasy camp.
Oh, boy.
Clark Gillies, obviously, was like a mainstay and a legend. So a little bit of a somber moments we had and remembering him and how great he was there and talking about him. So we missed him dearly, but our team did win the championship. I was on a team with Joey Mullen. Joey Mullen, one of the greatest hockey stories ever from Hell's Kitchen in New York. In New York City, yeah, he grew up playing roller hockey, not like roller blades, like the old roller skates, which is amazing to me, and became a whole. It's amazing.
Is that true?
He has the best
roller skates was a type of hockey.
The four wheels.
No, there was no roller skate hockey. You guys are trying to see if I'm a sucker.
No.
Roller skate hockey.
This is like Skinny Minnie Miller stuff.
Okay.
That's a reference that goes back way back.
The greatest story ever. This guy played till in his teens before he started playing ice hockey.
He's like an all-time U.S. point getter, isn't he? Like a top 10 guy.
A legend.
Wow. That's
wild. See the pictures of him. The old roller skates on with like little shin pads, and he has like a little curly mop on his head, and it's like it's hilarious.
That's awesome.
The best guy ever, though. So that was a fun event, and of course we missed Clark, so that was remembering him, and all the guys are kind of the same guys that come back. But that's what I've been up to, boys.
So Colby, what do you make of the next dozen games? Because that's where the majority of the teams are, including the Toronto Maple Leafs. as they prep towards game one. Is it big picture stuff, or are you still out to win every game and maybe think about a home ice advantage scenario? How would you see this playing out?
Yeah, I think it's home ice positioning, right? I don't know if I pictured Tampa falling out of it, but and then Boston surging into it. Like, look out for the Leafs, right, and battling for that position where they're at. I know it's tight right there with Boston and Tampa, but in the Metro too, it's New York and Pitt. They play tonight. It's a big game. You have 4 points separating them, but I think, everyone likes to look at this. What I think, everyone likes to look at like home ice versus away records and everything. And of course you should, but I always think, like, regardless if you're better on the road or you're not so hot at home, is there an advantage really when you look at it that way? Like, I always think home ice is the best to get, right? So like, I think you're playing for home ice and positioning for sure right now with these teams and the Leafs too. Like, they're trying to keep those guys, the Bruins and the Tampa Bay, away from them. They're trying to separate.
Colby, how much of the whole past and ghosts and demons and all this stuff with the Toronto Maple Leafs, how much do you think that plays into their run here? Like, do you think that's in anyone's head, that sort of the problems of the past? I imagine it is.
I think it kind of weighs, and I think it's hard not to think about it a little bit. And I remember when I was playing there too, and Berkey's like, he was our GM, and he's like, these kids aren't bearing, these guys aren't bearing the weight of the past. Like, this whole team wasn't here, whatever years ago. Right. And, you still read about it every day. They still talk about it. It's still brought up all the time, and it's kind of always in your face. So you do have to deal with that a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know. I get a feeling. Is there like something different about them this year? Like, is there like a different feeling with this group this year? I feel like in the last few weeks, I feel like it's kind of tilted a little bit to like, this might be a different feeling for the Leafs.
Well, I think if anyone's feeling that way, the first place you look at is historic seasons out of Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. This is something, and I grew up in Toronto, right? I went through Sittler, McDonald, right to Derlago and Vive, to Gilmore and Andrewchuk. And now we're looking at, and Matt's, of course, in that era. But now we're looking at something that Leaf fans have never really felt before. Yeah. And that's where I think the feeling is different right now.
Yeah, and 100 points, Austin Matthews. I think Marner could possibly in these remaining games, depending, right? Like, I don't know. You like to think you'd give your big boys a little bit of a break maybe at the end, but I think with the way he's been playing too, like 100 points is another question with where he's at with the remaining games and what he's able to put up too. So, and the goals, like, I think when you have those personal individual goals for your stars, I think that drives you a little bit differently. And we've seen it, right? We've seen, whether it was McDavid kind of pushing for the 100-point mark in a shortened COVID season and like what that meant. And he says, of course, it doesn't mean anything, I'm just going to play. But you could see, like, you have something else when you're already good and you have these extra little things driving you inside, it does bring you closer together as a team and a group. And it does drive you to like different heights. I feel it's like a different feeling around the team or in the room when you're kind of pushing for something on the side like that. So, yeah, I think you're right, Kipper. I think you're right. I think those individual things are big and kind of pushing this team and maybe having a different feel.
Where do you think Jack Campbell's head's at? This whole thing hinges on Jack Campbell. How confident are you that he can find the guy he was for the first month or two of the year?
Yeah. I don't know. That's like, man, we've talked about this, right? We talked about it when Freddie left and he was the guy, and then it's like, okay. And then he was having one of the greatest seasons, like one of the best stories in the NHL, an all-star game, and everything was going great. And then, can he find like what he was, previously? I think he can. I also think it takes, there's always going to be a certain amount of pressure or weight on his shoulders, I think, playing that position in Toronto. And, we talk about the past and like what he's got to get over, and kind of, a lot of eyes looking at him. Like he's obviously right now he's put himself in the question mark territory, right? It's like, okay, I've got all eyeballs on me. I've got to prove myself here. So Do I think he's going to be? I think he just has to be good. I don't think he has to be like outstanding, right? Like I think you add Giordano, I think you add all these guys. You get Muzzin's been back, and those guys are huge for them on the back end. And then he just has to be good because you have enough talent and you have enough ability. And I think that's what they're just hoping, that Jack Campbell doesn't have to put this pressure on him to be like steal games and be the star. He just has to be good. He has to be solid.
Prior to the Bruins winning, I can recall as a hockey analyst going on TV saying, they're never going to win with that Tim Thomas. He's all over the place. I'm not even sure how
he
great.
was.
He's too small.
Yeah.
He looks to me like he's out of shape, and then lights out. Moral of the story here is that nobody believes that you can do it until you do it. Now, the good news, I think, for Jack Campbell and the Leaf fans out there is that Jackson really no different of a situation than 7 out of 8 teams. The only one that you look at is Vasilevsky, and they made him look awfully human a few nights ago. So, you had a chance to be with a guy named Marc-Andre Fleury, who was a first pick overall. None of the guys that I see.
He had it too.
Right? Yeah, to a lesser extent. But there was a bar and an expectation that when you're first pick overall, you're going to reach, you're going to get to eventually.
Let's look at it. Good call, though. Let's look at it. Bobrovsky kind of falters in the playoffs. He's kind of a guy that's never been able. And I remember when he's in Columbus, he always had to try to rip through the Penguins, and they just stomped him in the playoffs. And he just couldn't, he getting pulled, getting yanked. Toronto skipped Boston. They got some, they got guys that they like, but I don't know. We don't know, right? Carolina, they got Freddie. Okay. Shesterkin's pretty good with the Rangers. I think they're pretty set on their horse. Jari, his playoffs last year, you go down the list, and I think you're right. I think most teams are like, oh, geez, we hope that it shows up. We hope that he can find his game, or, the pressure doesn't consume him, or, our backup can come in if we need him, or, so I think the Leafs are in a big ocean of similar situations to a lot of teams.
Colby, I'm not sure if Jari is still getting the recognition he deserves nationally, probably in Pitt.
Yeah.
But this guy could not catch a puck at the end of last year.
No, I know, and it was unbelievable. And you know what? They had injuries. They had Casey DeSmith was banged up. They had Legacy, I think who was their third goaltender at the time, and they weren't going to put him in. So Jari had to ride through that. And I mean, couldn't play a puck. He's a good puck playing goaltender too. Couldn't catch a puck. So, is he going to climb out of this? He's been really consistent this year. He's dropped a few games lately in Colorado. How are you going to stop that juggernaut? But, he's got some demons, and people still talk about it. You're right, Kyper. Nationally, I don't think he gets a recognition. He was in the All-Star game, and he's had a great, consistent year this year. But they're still waiting to see. Come playoffs that's when you got to prove it, right? So I think he's just got to prove it. I think a lot of these guys just have to prove it that they're going to get the job done when it counts. Goaltending's so huge, though. Hey, it's crazy. Crazy. I hate talking about goalies. We have to.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's like an analysis thing. It's like, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
You know who talks about it the most?
Us?
No. The players on the bench.
Yeah, good point.
Okay. You don't want to watch your own goalie through your own gloves, right? Because your eyes are covered.
Yeah.
Tell me when the puck's out of our zone, please.
Not a good feeling. So then, we've got that Pittsburgh Rangers game on Sportsnet tonight. They played a couple times this season already, likely playoff first round matchup, and the Penguins have lost both times to the Rangers. How do they stack up against that team? It looks like a much better roster to me, but a couple of losses at their hands.
Yeah. The one was a complete blowout in New York, so we'll see how they fare tonight again in MSG. Tough building to play in. Their team's fast, though. They're fast. They're fairly deep. They added guys. They've added some depth through their lineup. Strome was in the lineup last game, but I think when both these teams play really well, the first time they played, Pitt won 1-0, just a goaltender battle. Next game, blowout. Next game was a 1-goal game again, a fairly close checking and tight. So, I think when they're both at their best and they're ready to play, I think it's going to be tight. Will make for, if these two teams looks like they may face each other in the playoffs, right? So it's going to, I think, make for a really good series. But this Rangers team, they got goaltending, They've got, big puck movers on the back end with a little bit of nastiness. I mean, the Keandre Miller is out there every time against Crosby, and he's not like overly aggressive or hard on him, but he is hard on him. Like he's just a guy that can skate. He's big, he's lanky, he gets in the way, and they've got a lot of different guys through their lineup that can play. And once again, we talked about guys playing for something. You got Kreider sniffing around 50 goals, so there's like a little extra on the plate there. I think where guys are pushing. Individually for him, for Kreider to hit the 50 goal mark too, which is huge. So a really good team. I think teams match up, good against each other. The Rangers are fast and skilled and, have talent. So I think at the end of the day, big game tonight. I think obviously Rangers are 4 points ahead of Pittsburgh, and at the end of the day, I think they're going to meet in the playoffs. So it'll make for a really great 7-game series. So get a load of it tonight. Tune in, check it out, and get ready to strap in for that series. It'll be good.
It will bounce a little bit here and there, but if the playoffs started tonight, have you seen what the matchups would be? Florida versus Washington, Toronto versus Boston, and we'll get Sammy back in here for that one. Carolina and Tampa Bay. That one blows my mind that these have been top teams all year long, and one of them's going home really dejected after the first round. And of course, the Rangers and Pens that you mentioned. But, wow, somebody may lose their job.
Well, and everyone went for it too, right, Kippy? Like, I think on trade deadline, were you guys not, like, the East was – everyone in the East was kind of like loading up. They're getting depth. They were finding their guys. They were all going for it. So I think because everyone's kind of, you look at a lot of those teams are kind of, some of them are more on the tip of your tongue for, contenders and favorites. But like a lot of them, like anything can happen. So the East, you're right. It's interesting with the matchups and who can play who and who can beat who. Because I don't know. You can toss it up, but man, it's going to set up. You're exactly right. There's going to be some awesome series and some great matchups and some good teams going home.
Goals. We talked yesterday about the Leafs and being a high-scoring team. They've got 5+ goals in 5 straight games. First time that's happened for the Leafs since 1984. And the idea, can you win playing that way? And I wrote an article just because there's so much on the idea that you need to be defensive and physical. But teams that win score too. What are your thoughts on playoff style and how you have to be built to have success in the postseason? It does change, right, from the regular season?
Yeah, it tightens up. Yeah. I think it tightens up. I think it gets a little bit harder. I think, preparation is a little bit more detailed with teams and facing, one individual team through the series. So, the detail of team checking and, how you're going to play and matchups and everything is just heightened. So things will change and things will tighten up. And, I think that's been our question mark all along with the Leafs is is this idea good enough? Is the Dubas idea of how to play hockey good enough? And, his idea of his skill and the players that he has and the construction of the lineup good enough to win. And, it's been proven, how many years now, maybe it's not. But how big is, adding a Giordano? How big is adding a Blackwell? How big is having some guys kind of, step up and have bigger years and, a little bit better feeling and understanding of how it's going to work. So, a lot of things can change year to year, but adding certain guys can help out for sure. But I think it's ultimately, I think this is a big year for obviously Toronto, right? Like we know that, right? Like Dubas, I think a big, a lot is riding on success. Do you think it's good enough for them just to get through the first round this year?
Oh, we've had this conversation, and my answer is absolutely not.
Oh, yes,
they've got to go on a run. They've got to have a run.
They've got to.
If you're a Leaf fan, I'm sorry. Like, you have to go, like, the first round demon or the ghost of the first round is just, it's to the point now where I'm looking at their team and the success and how good they are. And, they're smashing a lot of these really good teams. I mean, they gave up one against Florida the other day, but it was a heck of a game. But it's like, this is a top tier team. Like, this isn't like first round is not probably circled on their whiteboard. It's got to be bigger than that. So
you guys been watching this team over the last 5 years?
I know.
I get accused of having too high of a bar.
Do we have too big of a bar? Yeah, we have too high of a bar, I guess. I don't know. Like, we watch all the games. You see it. You see where they match up and like what the expectation likely should be.
Oh, for sure.
I mean,
for sure. For how good this team is, the bar should be a run. For what has
Yeah.
happened in the past and the division and conference they're in. There's a lot of Leafs fans right now
Oh,
who
my
would
God.
they do the Brad May. They would fight their mother to win one round. Kipper.
The Leafs may be better off missing the playoffs than losing in the first round.
Yeah, you're no kidding.
Because that beating,
What a mind.
oh my God. All right.
Relentless.
One of the busiest men in hockey. What's next, Colby? Maybe beer pong at Ryan Kessler's house again?
Oh, I'm up for that all day long. That was awesome. I'll do that again all day. I mean, are you kidding me? It's like a vacation when I went to his place. You got Bob Seeger lives across the lake from him. I'm going to hope to get a little peek at him, maybe a little concert. I don't know if we're doing that again, but that would be awesome. I don't know. Maybe youth hockey stuff still. It's still kicking off. My son's in lacrosse, though, boys. I know nothing of the
Big East
sport.
Coast.
I never played. I love lacrosse. Like hockey dad turned lacrosse dad. I don't know how they line change. I'm like asking all the dumb questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, what was that? But it is awesome to watch. I love it.
My
So he's
my
11,
East Coast
turning-
nephew in Long Island just got a college
Yeah.
scholarship for lacrosse. He's the face-off guy, and I was like, oh, okay. So like you go out, you specialize. He literally just takes face-off, then runs
Oh,
off.
buddy, runs
That's
off.
his
Yeah, it's
whole
so
thing.
important to get possession,
Face-off,
man. It's
bench, college scholarship.
insane. Yeah.
And to think we're trying to get rid of cross-checking in our game.
Oh yeah, they're
Buddy,
leaning
go
into
watch
it.
that game. You can hear the sticks cracking bones. It is insane. I went to a high school game here the other day just to check it out. I was like, oh my God. Like this is. I asked my kid. I'm like, "Are you tough enough to play this game?" Like, I don't know. And you know what he said to me? He said to me, he was watching and he just says with his eyes all big, he goes, "I don't know."
Oh, Dad. I want to do this.
Is there non-contact lacrosse for me, Dad?
Yeah.
It's like once you're bungee jumping and you're strapped in, kid, you're giving it a try. So.
Yeah. Oh, buddy. Yeah. It's insane. So you go watch one of those like more competitive older kid games, and all you hear is like hack and whack and crack. It's a monster. It's a cool sport though. It's a great summer sport. So I know, isn't Tavares a big in the lacrosse?
Oh,
and his uncle
the
was like,
family, the
he's
uncle.
like one of the greatest. Yeah. So I can see why he has good hands and can handle tight spaces and use his body and everything, because that is such a cool sport. I've loved it. I've loved it the last couple summers. So it's an awesome sport. Kids, check out lacrosse.
Arm Dog, thanks for doing this, man. Always fun with
All
you.
right, boys.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it, Cole.
thanks, boys. Good
Colby
talking to you
Armstrong.
guys. Yeah.
So did you play?
No, I never did. I wish I had. Like I love to toss it around in the backyard or whatever, but no. You?
No, not
Yeah.
not organized.
I played one season,
Oh yeah.
and I was looking for a summer sport, and I didn't get the pad that goes between your shoulder pads and your elbow pads.
Yeah.
I didn't, because I play
The old
hockey. I never
bicep
thought about
pad.
The
that.
ribs.
No, it's like the one that covers your middle arm.
Oh, okay.
I got cross-checked so hard, I had a bruise on my arm that had the pattern of the jersey. I went net every game from there on out.
Yeah.
I just couldn't handle it. It is a warrior sport.
They-
Warrior.
I can't even get over the concept of a face-off guy. I was like, so like, when do you? And he's like, no, just face-off.
So and you're built like Garth Snow
You should,
with
yeah.
the Islanders, the old equipment.
You should see the size of my nephew. These guys are ripped like large animals. It's
Just a quick update. Tiger just hold a 20-footer for birdie at
to
16.
get her to one down.
Nice.
In the red, baby. Let's go to
Yeah,
break.
unfortunately, Cam Smith is 6 under par
Yeah,
after
he's-
8 birdies.
Yeah, he doubled the first hole and he's 6
All
under par.
right. We got Marty Turco after the break. We'll go lacrosse with him. We'll go Masters with him. And we'll go Leafs versus Dallas. All after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne, show number 127.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Also on the program, Gary Galley will come up in the second hour here and help us tee up his call tonight. Toronto Maple Leafs and the Dallas Stars. But let's go right to the source.
Yes.
Marty Turco. When in doubt, go to the goalies. They know everything. What's going on, Marty?
You're getting wise in your old age, Kyper.
How about the Dallas?
Everything's good, man. How are you?
We're good. How about the Dallas Stars? Are they getting wiser as this season ends? Are they going to be able to hold on here?
Well, it's a good question, but my answer would be yes. We are getting wiser. Our no real moves at the deadline might be good. Keep a cohesive group together. They seem to be believing. 7-9, had a good road trip until we laid an egg in Seattle, but we look good. We got some games in hand. Obviously, we're in a dogfight with a few teams for that last or second for those wild card spots. But if I had to go out on it, I say we will make it by probably 1 to 3 points. We'll get in. That'd be my guess. But tonight's, huge. A team that's had that crazy Florida kind of swing there, and it'll be interesting to see how it all pans out tonight.
So what do you think of the Stars and where they're at in terms of the likelihood of being able to do some damage if they were to get it in the postseason? Some nice stories, some players having good years there. Is there enough going on that gives you a belief that when this team's rolling, they can win some games, win a series or two?
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's not just because of our roster. The Jamie Benns of the world, you don't want to play those guys in the playoffs. He's just a gamer. But, it's the way we've been winning hockey games, just scrappy playoff style stuff, scoring goals late or just getting it done. It's not been pretty. I watch them all. I'll say that. Some games do look good, and certainly when that line is out there, Robertson, Pavelski, and Rupe Hintz, those guys are as good as anybody in the league. They seem to be dangerous every shift that they're out there. But, we would be dangerous if we made it. We got a lot of work to do. We are built for the playoffs for that kind of team. We got a bunch of goalies out, but we seem to found one in our young stud, Jake Ottinger, who's been carrying the mail for us. So selfishly, I would like to see him in the playoffs and just see how he does and get him some action so it could serve him well for the rest of his career. But we got a good mix of old and young, some speed and some skill, and most nights were fun to watch. Like I said, not all that pretty, but at least they're entertaining.
So, Marty, you mentioned Jake Ottinger in Dallas now, and the ongoing conversation here in Toronto is, of course, in net with Jack Campbell, and, can he get the job done? But then you look around, and I don't know if I can ever recall 7 out of 8 teams having the same question mark, goaltenders that have never done it before, talented guys, but you know what it takes in the playoffs and the mindset and the ability to calm yourself down and what experience can do for you. Have you ever seen anything like it where there's been so many question marks with teams expected to do well, but yet have that hanging over their heads, an inexperienced goaltender?
I definitely have seen it, it's been quite some time. And when it happens like this, of the surplus of inexperienced guys, I think it's super exciting, right? There's only one team that's going to win, and everybody else is going to get great experience. Some of those guys are going to get bounced in the first round. That's just the way it's going to go. And they're going to have to wait a whole another year, hopefully, to get a run at the playoffs. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's great. I think it's good for the game. Got some young, talented guys. Some have been in the league for a little bit, but haven't had a chance to test their moxie come tournament time. And so I'm excited. There's a lot of we're in good hands in this league from a goaltending perspective. It's at all-time high of talent, structure, and size too, for that matter. So it'll be fun for me as an old guy watching the playoffs, because kind of test their mettle. And some guys are going to play great and still lose, unfortunately, but the way it goes.
So just, for Jake tonight, we assume he's playing. He's going up against one of the hottest shooter in hockey in Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner at an incredible point per game rate here. What would you like? Is that equivalent to maybe you facing a Lemieux and Yager? Do you focus on 2 or 3 guys? Like, what kind of advice would you give Jake going up against these guys tonight?
Those are games you look forward to. I'm like, it's, for me, I think I look at it more like Sakic Forsberg type stuff, because we saw Colorado all the time, and I mean, those are the games you get up for. You want them. I mean, you're playing against Toronto Maple Leafs, even though he's a Minnesota kid, went to BU. He knows how many people will be watching, and Leaf Nation's nuts, and what the Leafs mean to the league. So it's a big game for us. It's really a big game for him. And my advice would be to enjoy it, but just you'll know when they're on the ice. You should know when the best players are on the ice. When they put half a foot over the board, you got to keep an eye on them. And then it's just so much fun to watch Austin. I mean, he's such a pure goal scorer, and he's talented. And obviously, Mitch, as you mentioned, is one of the best players in the world. He's just so gifted, and I love watching him play. He's just so slick out there. So I just enjoy it, man. I had to see the Zetterberg and Datsuk too, during my career. I love playing against those 2 top tandems all the time. And obviously the buck doesn't stop there with those 2 guys, but when they're on the ice. And I made the mistake one time when we were playing Washington. They asked me like, "Oh, you always know where Ovechkin is on the ice?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, of course he's great." He goes, "I'm really watching out for this Alexander Semin guy who was hot at the time." And of course, Ovi didn't disappoint with a hat trick against me that night. So I put my foot in my own mouth, but. It's a big challenge. These guys are so good, talented. I mean, to me, I look forward to those moments every time.
Marty, tell us about the season Jason Robertson is having. Kind of came out of nowhere for me, my awareness of him anyway. 32 goals in 61 games played, second on the team in scoring. What kind of year is this guy having?
Oh, just unreal. For the beginning of the year, we would have said that. We're like, no. And, for us, smart hockey pundits, right? We know everything. There's no way we would have looked on that whole roster and says, let's put Rupe with Joe Pavelski and then Jason Robertson. Just seems like the odd couple, but it works, and it's worked so good for us. I mean, they've been collectively the best line in hockey for this season. And to your point, I think, is that Jason Robertson, he's the linch to that. I mean, that's nothing against Joe or Rupe. This guy is such a gamer. The best way I can describe him is if you're going to go play a pond hockey game, he should be your first overall pick. The guy just does the little things great, puts pucks in awesome places. He makes everybody around him better. And I remember, a couple years ago, the first time I seen him in our lineup, and I was sitting up there in the box, and I was like, who is this guy again? And, from California, he's a little shy, a little nerdy off the ice. But, man, oh, man, the guy knows how to play the game of hockey. He knows how to put percentages in his favor. His puck skills, his awareness is just off the charts. And you got a guy with hands like Joe, and you got the speed and size of Rupe. Man, they've just been making magic. But he's the centerpiece. We're very lucky to draft that kid and have him in our organization. And this year, we wouldn't be where we are in and around the playoff bubble without him having the year he's having.
We're talking to Marty Turco, special assistant to the president of the Dallas Stars. When we think of the Leafs, of course, and people around the league and the world think of the Leafs, they now are thinking Matthews and Marner. For Dallas, it's been Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. Yet those numbers are not anywhere near where you expect them to be for guys that are making almost $10 million. So, I mean, Marty, if these guys were in Canada with those numbers, they'd be getting ripped left, right, and center here. So how is it in Dallas with, 40-plus points?
People like those guys when they go out, spend money at the restaurants and the malls and stuff.
Popular about town.
Good tippers.
They're very good, man. They're loved around town, man. Leave the guys alone. Hey, listen, we're in a salary cap era. When you pay for guys, you hope they play close to their AAV, and we're fine, man. That's what we expected out of them. You want a little bit more salary wise. I know Mr. Tom Gallardi would love a little more because how much you pay these guys, but they're good, and we get in the playoffs. These guys we're gonna need them. We're only be successful if those two guys are going. The other line just can't do it all. Miro and Klingberg and the guys in the back end and our goalie. So it's just the world we live in, man. I mean, hey, I wish I was making $9.5 million AAV and not producing up to what people wanted either. I wish I'd be fine living in Toronto, getting yelled at. It's tough though, man. They're good. They're good. We paid them. It is what it is, and we got to win. We need those guys, and so no matter what they're getting paid, they're going to pull on the rope just like everybody else.
Well, and I don't mean this to be a pile on, but we only get to see Dallas a couple times a year, and I wanted to ask about Radulov, a guy who's played 62 games and has 4 goals this season. He's another name that just doesn't really come up that much. A UFA at the end of this season. Where are things at with him, the organization, just his play in general?
I think things are fine. He's been in and out of the lineup. Some injuries, unfortunately for him. Mm-hmm. He's certainly a talented guy. He's streaky, and just hasn't had a streak yet this year. So let's go, and maybe he can find one. And he's high energy. So when what we talked about earlier, playoff wise, right? You get into the playoffs, guys like that throwing backhands, top cheese. Making plays, hitting, he could be really effective. But, we're going to need everybody, all hands on deck, including him, and Tyler and Jamie, and just everybody to get into the playoffs. And so whether you have 4 goals at all, let's find it. No matter what it is keep putting pucks on the net. And, lately his attitude's been pretty good. He's been playing pretty hard, and he's just been snake-bitten, unfortunately. But he's a high-energy guy. We need him to produce, and if he doesn't and we get in the playoffs, man, these guys like that, you see can, have success that didn't have it during the playoffs. He can catch fire pretty quick.
Marty, you got to excuse us because out of the corner of our eye, the Masters are going on as well here. So
I'm watching it too. Relax. Okay? I'm watching it too.
I want
to watching Tiger 2-putt.
Oh, what a hell of a story this could turn out to be, for him.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, nobody in our lifetime moved the needle like this guy. Nobody. We're all glued to it. These guys should be thanking him. Scotty Scheffler lives in the neighborhood. He grew up in Dallas and see his dad and mom walk in the neighborhood all the time. And these guys should be kissing his rear end, man. What he's done for sports in general. The money these guys are making. Willie Zalatoris, watching him too. The money these guys are making. Hey, they work hard. They're super talented and gifted. But Tiger Woods, Tiger Woods, what he does, man, is we're all glued to it, man. Look at this guy. His pink shirt, whatever he wants.
Whatever he wants.
He's on one leg again.
Just in a tank top out there.
God, it's so exciting, man.
So
exciting.
I want to just kind of use a little bit of a golf hockey thing here because Shalgren's the backup goalie for the Leafs the last few weeks since Mrazek was lost. And, he went into Florida, didn't finish the game. Some weren't sure whether he was hurt or not, or whether he pulled himself out or not. But I want to ask you something. Much like golfers, where we're watching the best in the world, the goalies today, they're all talented, but the difference between the golfers and winning and maybe goaltenders and being successful, is it between the ears?
Most of the time, yes. Sometimes it's just a talent issue, foot speed, edge work, size, tracking the puck. These guys are good, man. You go play with a professional golfer, the 250th ranked guy from South Africa, say, and you're like, who is this guy? And all of a sudden he shoots 63, and you're like, oh, guess he's pretty good, Yeah. And I'd like to see you get on the ice. I'd like to see you get on the ice, even though you played a long time in the NHL, and go against them. You're like, you ain't scoring, maybe one, out of 50.
Yeah.
These guys are good. It's just, I think it's not a conversation about, is it lack of talent or is it between the ears? I think the credit goes to the guys we're on top. When you look at Fleury playing for that long, he has it, man. These guys are just that good. And then the same thing in golf, like Tiger and Rory and and Jordan Spieth when he's on. These upper echelon guys, goalies and golfers, they're the special breed. It's these other guys are talented. They're super good. You got to get your hats off to the guys who are some of the best in the absolute world. And I love watching good goalies play when they're on and tracking the puck. It is just such a treat to watch, and no different in golf. And Tiger or someone's just taking it low. You just gotta appreciate it. And so, all the goalies are talented. You look at Wedgwood, man, who's might be playing tonight. Actually, I heard he might be playing instead of Ottinger. These guys are amazing. They're great goalies. They just they're not eating minutes every night, and it's harder than it looks. And that's all really I can say about the difference between the top guys and the journeymen.
So it's less about maybe them getting themselves psyched out than it would be just an issue mechanically.
Yeah, you're in shorter. You're half a second behind. Your edge work isn't just as good. Innate ability. And sometimes it is between the years, man. You don't get that shot, or you just you've had it before, given an opportunity, and you drop the ball, and it's hard to recover from it. And some guys just aren't built for it, honestly. And I had a guy my first year, second year pro. This guy in Dallas, they wouldn't even tell him he was playing starting tonight because they were scared he might not show up. I'm like, what? I'm like, how'd you get this far in life? But then for me, hearing stories like that, you're like, okay, it is between the years, right? Like, I want this, I believe this, and it's every contract that we were ever getting. I looked at my wife and said, hey, now the work's starting. And so we're, let's go earn that contract, right? It was just a mindset. You wanted it. Like I said earlier, when Zach and Forsberg were on the ice, I was like, hey, I want to play these guys. I want to be the guy. I want to carry the mail. And not everybody's like that. They want it, but going out there and doing it are two different things. And, I wasn't immune to bad goals and bad stretches and bad years for that matter. And certainly not bad series, but you got to want it and get back on the horse. And so that was, I think that's probably the most of it. But I really think the top guys, you got to give the credit to instead of wondering why the other guys can't,
So what you're telling us is you've never experienced the yips ever. What sport are we talking about here?
No. Yeah. I definitely have in hockey, and I'll never forget. I had one training camp, and I couldn't get hit by the puck, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to be brutal. They're paying me. I'm the guy, and I changed my something in my stance and in my hand positioning the night before. The day we were traveling to Colorado to start the season, and we went in there. We ended up winning in overtime. I made a great play to Sador to go in and score on Jose Theodore, and I felt way better. And it was just one little thing that stopped my yip or whatever I was doing, and it might have been mechanical, but of course 95% of that's between the ears and just how you feel. And I'll never forget it, right? Just one little thing to get you back on the horse. But that's what it all ends up being, right? When you're the guy and you're riding high, you're like, how can I keep this thing, man? How do I keep my confidence going? What do I got to do on and off the ice to keep it rolling? And then when you hit that lull spot, you're like, man, how do you get it back fast? And that ends up being the difference between, some of these Hall of Famers and some guys who, may play 250 games and, looked at as an average goalie. Still some of the best talent in the world, but it's like, how do you stay on top the longest? And then you start to give it. Sometimes circumstance too. Hey, I'm not scared to talk about mine. I had 2 expansion drafts. We were right as I'm starting my career. We traded Roman Turk on the Cup team, and Manny Fernandez got picked up in Minnesota. And lo and behold, who's looking around like, who's left? And I'm like, hey, it's me over here. And they're like, all right, you're backing up Eddie Belfour. And sometimes you just need. Sometimes you need that, and I got it. And you got to take advantage of those moments too. So yes, it is all mental, but there's an innate amount of ability that goes that precedes that to get to this level. And everybody that plays in the NHL, man, it's a complete honor and privilege, and they're all super talented. And some get the chance, some can own it when they do, and some don't. But they're all super talented and they all get paid really well. So I think that that bodes well for them too.
He is Kingville's Brewery, the king.
The king of Kingville.
The king of Kingville. Any new flavors in the LCBO there, buddy?
Our Czech lager's in there, which is dynamite. I mean, we think Czech Pilsners are best brewers.
Okay, it was just a quick question. It was just a quick question. Marty, you're the best, buddy.
Like that guy. Czech Pilsner, red can. Go get it.
Okay, go get it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Marty. We
Go
appreciate
Tiger.
you, man.
Go Tiger.
He just pulled another one in the bush.
You guys are talking about Yips and Tiger yanked and Ted left. I was like,
You over-yipped our conversation. Marty Turco.
Oh, my God. Tigers. He's got to put a piece of gum in. All right, boys.
He's in the left pocket. Thanks, Marty.
He's hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good conversation.
He's got a lot of great insight and a lot of experience to draw on.
Oh, yeah.
I am aware that when we ask him about certain guys on the team, like he's part of the managerial staff of the team. Like,
you know what? I kind of forgot that a little bit.
I know. I'm like, yeah, tell us about Radulov. What's he going to say?
What's going on with Sagan? And like,
Why do they
only
suck
got
so
40
bad, Marty?
points. Well, they're making $10 million. They got
He's
40
like,
points.
we know.
The best,
Oh my God.
the best line was, he's a bit of a streaky player, hasn't had a streak yet.
yeah, Radulov's a streaky player. Hasn't had a streak yet.
All right, well, we're going to
that
take
was
a
great.
quick break and calm down here and get Tiger out of the woods.
Oh, he
Well done.
yanked that.
What happened?
He
Double
was
cross.
sniffing out a red number on 18 here.
Double
and,
cross.
Yeah, although he drop kicked the drive on 14 too, right? He's
All right, we're going to take a quick break here. Sammy, no tickets to give away, or we're good?
No, we'll
there?
do that after the break.
Okay, we'll do it after the break. We got Gary Galley, color analyst with Sportsnet Hockey Night in Canada, and he'll help us also get teed up for Dallas and the Toronto Maple Leafs. You're watching and listening on our YouTube channel, Real Kyper and Bourne.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Opening day at the Masters.
And tomorrow's opening day baseball. There's all sorts of sports
and
stuff.
That's right. We got to remind everybody tomorrow that our show will start 10 a.m. Eastern. Can you remind me of that tomorrow morning?
I'm going to text you in the morning.
Please do. I'm showing up here for 3
text you at
p.m.
9:45 and see if you're awake.
We have, so all of you watching on our YouTube channel, make sure that you know that it's a 10 to 12 because we're shifting just for this one particular day, the opening of the Blue Jays.
Barker and Blair going 3 to 5.
They
The
got our
boys.
spot. What happens if they like it so much they want it?
Yeah, they're done. We're
Nah,
kicking
they're
them out.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we could take them maybe.
I got Blair.
Yeah. Okay.
You
I got
guys-
Barker.
You guys take
Who's their
Barker.
producer? Have a shot there.
Boffo. I'll give Boffo a
And
shot in the guts.
I got Gary Galley right now, color analyst for Sportsnet, getting ready for Dallas and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Gary, how are you, pal? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no worries. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're hanging in there. We're just trying to
got
figure out the contrast between a Tampa Bay game and a Florida game and what shows up tonight against the Dallas Stars. What are your thoughts from 15,000 feet above?
You know, a few weeks ago, I was doing a Leaf game, and I was looking down the schedule of what was coming, and I thought, geez, you know, they got Florida a couple times, they got Tampa, they got Boston, they got some real heavy hitters, not just in the league, but in their own division. And these are normally opportunities for a coach and a management team to really have a look at your team against teams that are getting pretty close to the playoffs. They're, you know, under 15 games before the dance starts. So you're going to get a really good look at it. And I think overall, and listening to Sheldon Keefe today, overall, I think that he seems rather pleased what he's seen. And even though there's a bit of a bobble in Florida, you know, they've actually played the games against the big hitters in their division very well. They've gotten points out of them. And at the same time, their big players have played well in those games against those teams. And those are the teams you're going to have to play to get out of your division. So it's, I think for Sheldon Keefe, I think he's going, you know what? This shows me that I think we're right there with these guys. And of course, it comes down to injuries and, you know, untimely penalties and goaltending and all kinds of other things that we throw into the equation when teams play. But I think at the end of the day, the other night, the 5-1 lead they blew, you know, they've done that before. And it's not just this year. They've done it over the years. They seem to have a habit of giving other teams some crazy momentum. And but you got to offer the pat on the back for jumping back in it and getting that sixth goal and getting the point out of the game and not just letting it all get away on you. So certainly another learning curve for the team, but I think all in all, the trip has been pretty good, and against those Atlantic foes, I think really good.
Has their success against some of those great teams in the Atlantic changed your perception of them in any way? I think some people feel better about them after this stretch. Do you feel kind of as you did before? They were always competitive against those good teams.
You know, I think good teams rise to the occasion against good teams.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a good sign. I would say that if you re-roll the reel, have we seen this reel before where some of their top players are just lighting it up and lighting it up and lighting it up, and then the playoffs hit, and then it's like, what just happened? Where's all the swagger? You know, where's all that confidence and resiliency that was going strong? And that's what the playoff can do to you. It gets in your kitchen, right? It's in your melon, twist things around, pots are banging all over the place, and there's noise coming from everywhere. And it's how do you handle that? And every year that the Maple Leafs falter in the playoffs, you have to look at that as a learning experience. There are things to be learned in winning, and there's a lot to be learned in losing. So are they learning along the way? And as they're tearing it up right now offensively, and guys are having career years and breaking records and things like that, is their perspective still the same? That, yes, this is the regular season, but our eye is on a much bigger prize, and we've faltered there, and we're not going to do that kind of thing again. So I really think I'm looking forward to the playoffs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think there's lots of questions to be answered. I think getting Giordano, that deal, I think has helped Sheldon Keefe and getting Muzzin back, move some of the pieces around on the backside, see what partners he likes, see where he wants to get his shutdown team going, and what guys are steady playing together. And I think that's getting tighter on the back. And goaltending, well, I think it's going to be a question until the end of the season comes and we all go, okay, it was really good, it was really bad, it was just average. We're not going to know till it's all done with. Gary,
if things kind of just play out at a pace that we're watching now, is it just a foregone conclusion that the Leafs would come in, no matter how hot Matthews or Marner is, as underdogs, and could that bode well for them?
I think people around the league and the teams they're playing are not going to consider them underdogs, and that's all that really matters, right? I mean, the Boston Bruins and the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are most likely going to be the dance partner, I don't see those guys thinking, okay, they're the underdog, But for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've got to go in with the confidence that they're not the underdog, that they can win this series if they play their game. I think for the fan base, they may look at it and leave a trap door a little open, saying, hey, we haven't, done well in the playoffs. We clearly are the underdog here. Until we prove it. But the people in the dance itself aren't going to think that way, and I would not count on any of the teams letting their guard down at all, and I don't think the Maple Leafs should either.
Gary, I'm sure part of your research today goes into looking into the Dallas Stars and what they have to offer. Has anything come across your desk that makes them stand out to you as an interesting team? Anything they do overly well or poorly?
They're a team that really had some off times in the season and have kind of found their way. They got behind in games. They, with the COVID stuff, they all got behind. But they weren't a team that had to play a lot of games that kind of struggled. Their road record is just okay. They're one game over 500, and they're only that because they had a decent road trip recently. Normally, guys, we always say you have to play well at home, and you got to be at least 500 or better on the road to guarantee yourself a playoff spot. And they are just at that. They're really solid at home. I mean, this is a team that's only lost 9 games at home, I think, this year. So this is a team that's really good. And you have to remember they have 9 of their last 13 games at home. So that bodes really well for them. So I love Rick Bowness. Rick's one of my most, the people I really enjoyed in the game and my time in the game. And I know after the game, our conversations, is a guy I really like. And I know they love playing for him. The Pavelski effect, I mean, can anyone argue that? I mean, he comes into this new team. And I think a lot of people, including myself, was like, okay, it's Joe, and Joe's a good player, but is this the downside of things or whatever? But man, he has just played so well for them. He's became really a new voice for that hockey club. Good on the power play, good on the penalty killing. He pushes his teammates to be better. He's playing with a couple of guys that are really excited to play with him, and I think it's that's one thing that I noticed a big difference. I mean, their goaltending, Ottinger, has really helped them because their power play has disappeared. Up till January 31st, this team was like 4th overall in the league in power play. And since then, I think they're like 28th. It's just been a real drop-off. And Rick Bowness made a rather funny comment. He's like, I'd rather have an ugly power play that shoots the puck than stands around and overpasses. So, I mean, that tells you the frustration where they're at. But without the power play, you'd have to say that the biggest thing for them is their overtime victories after regulation. Their goal differential, they're a +9. In overtime. That's insane. And that's where they're sitting in the driver's seat right now. And if they play well down the stretch at home, this should be a playoff spot for the Dallas Stars.
We're talking to Gary Galley, former NHLer and color analyst for tonight's game on Sportsnet, Toronto versus Dallas. Gary, you've played on enough good core blue line. Is it possible that 7 or 8 guys now are sitting there going, I don't deserve to sit out? I mean, I watched Lyubushkin come out of the lineup, and I'm like, I don't know if he would have been my first choice. Is that where the Leafs are now? Is that bode well for the Leafs, or is it all in the way they may handle this?
Well, it always comes down to how a player handles his ice time and his playing time, and whether he's in a lineup or out of a lineup. I get this vibe that I think we didn't take it as well as the guys take it now. The guys seem to take it more in stride now. They don't look at it as an insult or the fact that people don't think you're good enough to play or like that. There are guys that need to get in the lineup and play. They need to get minutes in. They need to stay fresh. And there's always going to be a top four that kind of plays. And Sheldon Keefe has his top four guys that he's going to keep in the lineup and playing. And those other two guys are going to have to possibly get used to, or at least one of them is going to have to get used to kind of rolling around a little bit and not falling down psychologically and mentally, and making sure that when it's your turn to step in and play, that you play to a high level. Because when the playoffs get running, it's the guys who are playing to the highest level that help the team win that are going to continue to play. And that's the way it is. But, I know guys get sat out games now, healthy, scratched, and you hear the coach or you hear someone say, look, and he's handling it really well, great attitude, his work ethic's off the charts. A guy like Radulov, right, in Dallas. I mean, yeah, okay, great. I'm sure he's not happy about it, but they take it a little better now, and that probably enables them to get back into the lineup without having all that anger and disappointment sitting on them for too long. They just move along and they get going.
Hey, just before you jump in, JB, a bad attitude can really ripple through the dressing room. Yeah. And you're right. There were instances where I can recall being on teams when I'm like, this guy's sucking the oxygen right out of our room.
Oh, there's nothing worse than a guy gets set out and he comes in, he's tossing garbage cans and kicking things and yelling and swearing in the off rooms, like it's just like, and you can appreciate someone's, someone's self-esteem and how they feel and they're angry. I mean, no one should ever take sitting out of a game lightly. That's for sure. But it's how you show your professionalism and your composure around your teammates is important too. And that's how you get respect as well. That, when you come into the lineup, you just come in and play. And I used to name that pops into my head, guys. It's a little off center, but a guy like Kulak in Montreal, I used to always say, why isn't this guy playing regularly? I like him. He does everything right. I don't know why they keep sitting him out games and not giving him a chance to play regularly. But every time he sat out, he came back into the game. He played the same way, played hard, and and that's why he moves on to other teams. And those are important things. But I coach minor hockey. I always told my kids, your bad attitude will beat you to the front door of the locker room before your talent any day. And I made sure I mention that, a few times within the season. It's that your attitude is very important, and not just for you, but all the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's something you're right. It doesn't seem to be a huge problem with the Leafs. When you see guys come in, come out, everyone's kind of right back at it. And for them, they've had a lot of success this season. They find themselves likely a 2 seed in the Atlantic. Who do you think they match up best against, looking at the first round potential opponents? Because, Lordy, there is a murderer's row of potential opponents there waiting.
Yeah, obviously the first two I mentioned earlier, I think Tampa Bay and Boston seem to be the most likely, unless Toronto was to really fall off and get into a wild card spot, which I don't think they will. So I put all my eggs in those two baskets, and I say, who are they better to play? Tampa Bay seems to be struggling more now. Boston seems to be playing better now since the trade deadline and picking up Hampus Lindholm and a few other pieces that have fallen into place there in Boston. They seem to have gotten some energy back, and Patrice Bergeron, who had been banged up and nicked quite a bit, I think has healed some things, and he looks like he's on his way to being up for another Selke, which is incredible. So Boston, has the young goaltending. So I would say I would rather play Boston, than go into Vasilevsky's, abode. I would think that would be something I wouldn't want to do. But some people say, you hit the Stanley Cup champions right off the hop, and if you can dismantle them and take them out, that is a huge boost for a team moving forward into the playoffs. You slay the dragon right away. Sometimes I know you have to win 4 series to win the cup, but sometimes a series that happens in the first 2 is what really, projects you forward and helps you win. And so certainly a series against Tampa would be certainly one where you're going to play a team that wants to win for a third time and be something special, and knocking them off with that kind of goaltender would be something.
Whatever the matchup is, Gary, when you talk about the prep work that would go into a playoff series and the assignments and how they get so specific and detailed, I mean, throughout your career, any comparisons to what a first-round opponent would be looking at and trying to stop a Matthews and a Marner?
The teams that are going to be playing Toronto are going to look at a few things in my mind. They're going to look at, and it's the Bill Belichick thing, right? Who do we take away in that lineup that's going to mess that lineup the most? Who do we get on? Who do we try to get off their game? Who do we really put our attention on? That if they don't have this person rolling, it can affect pieces underneath them and have a residual effect. That's going to be the main thing. So you got to look at Matthews and say that this is a guy, and Chara did it for years with Boston. Get him off his game, make his game hell to play every night, and hopefully through a long series, because it will be. It affects the trickle down effect is there. The other thing too is you've got this power play that's going to finish the season probably as for a record in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's going to probably be north of 30%. They're scoring so many power play goals, but we all know in the playoffs that's something that disappears. There isn't normally a team that's ripping along at 30, 35% in the playoffs. And the two teams they're going to play, the Tampa and Boston. Boston has got an extremely good penalty killing team with really good face-off guys. And so if their power play can't be as advantageous for them, are they going to be able to generate enough goals to win games? And the close games, right? The 2-1s, 3-2 games that seem to happen more often in the playoffs. And that's when it comes down to goaltending and defense. So there is a shift as far as it goes. Is Toronto, are they ready for that shift and know how to play in those games and learn from the previous falters in the playoffs? And that's the question to me. But certainly taking away that power play efficiency and taking away as much of Matthews as you can, I think will go a long way in defeating the Toronto Maple Leafs for sure. And I think that's not rocket science.
Yeah. And Gary, what do you think their best chance of having an effective fourth line is? The options with Clifford, Spezza, Simmons, Blackwell, Abruzzesi's getting some run here. Is there a way that they can put something together that they can use effectively for 8 to 10 minutes?
I think whatever the line is, Jason Spezza has to be on it in my mind. I really believe that. He's a guy that can take faceoffs for you, key faceoffs. He's a guy that he won't hurt you on the ice. He understands his role, his position. He plays a good 200-foot game. He's still got extremely good wheels. This guy can still move on the ice and keep up with all the speed that's going on out there, so that doesn't bother me. Is he as productive or is he as opportunistic, as he once was? No, certainly not. But I think you have to have him on your fourth line. And then after that, I really believe that, when you look at Blackwell, I think you picked him up for a reason, right? And that's a guy that you're hoping that's going to be able to sit on that fourth line. You may be able to move him into some penalty killing power play. But the big story is in this next few weeks, where is Kasha? Where is he in the big scheme of things? If he comes back into their lineup prior to the playoffs starting, then there will be a trickle down effect, people dropping down, right? And that could help that fourth line out. So certainly that's something that I'm not really sure where he is medically right now. I really don't have an idea, but I know that guy was playing some really good hockey for them prior to the injury. And if he could get himself back into the lineup, or if they could get him into the lineup, then everything just trickles downward, and that just makes the fourth line even that much better.
Looking forward to the game tonight. Looking forward to your call tonight, Gary. Really appreciate the time, man, as always. Thanks.
No worries, guys. You guys take care. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary Galley calling the game tonight. It's interesting. He didn't even waver. It's like Spezza's got to be in that lineup. So I'm wondering, is it just less about his play now and more about just getting him physically ready and taking a few nights off?
Well, that's why tonight's not such a bad thing.
And if he's even at his stature as a veteran, a long-time player, if you get him a little pissed off, a little hungry, that's not the worst thing either. So you think that's more to do with the prep work and how they've looked at the last 12 or 14 games, and maybe more strategy?
I don't know.
About game to game.
I feel like you can't go entirely not by merit. Merit matters. If you play well, you should play. And Blackwell has played very well, right? Blackwell, we feel like kind of has to be in.
Yeah, but they healthy scratched him the other night.
But then he came back. He scored again.
Okay, but then so which one is it? Is it merit? Is it?
Well, yeah, they had a day where they went again. I just feel like you can't take him out. He's been too good. And what message do you send to everyone if it doesn't matter? It matters.
A confusing message.
Yeah. a confusing one. And hopefully he's played well enough that they're just like, okay, we can't take this guy out. He's obviously one of our best 12 guys. They want to get Abruzzese some looks. And how do you take Wayne Simmons out, who scored on a breakaway and, beat up a player the last time he was in the lineup? Like, I feel like they're struggling to put together this fourth line. I don't know that it's about Spezza so much as they just don't want to lose anyone. Guys play well enough. You got to keep putting them in, and Simmons has got to be in. It's good for Spezza to get some rest. I don't know how it makes him feel, but.
Super Sammy, is it a given for you that Spezza is in game one?
I don't think it's a given, but I would like to see him in there. I think he's kind of earned the right over his however many years. It's been 3 years now that he's been here, I guess, that I think game one of the playoffs, he has to be in there. I think more on merit than anything. It's just, he's like Gary said, the draws are important. He's got the offensive ability on the second power play unit, all the stuff that Gary said, and just the sort of veteran status and what he's meant to the Leafs over these past couple years.
Yeah.
I think it's important he's in there for game one. Game two, maybe not, but game one, you can't Babcock him here like Babs did with him in the first game of this. Like, it still matters. Game one of the playoffs, I'd have him in.
It's funny because anytime Spezza is in, it kind of muddles what the fourth line is and does, right? Like, it changes it from being a mucker line.
It's because of his skill.
Right. He's too good.
He's too skilled still to be a typical fourth line type of guy.
Yeah.
And we can see that skill still come out. Now, the age has slowed down a little bit, but he still wants to make some moves, whether it's a toe drag, whether it's the big loop through the neutral zone, coming in with speed.
Right.
I mean, it still typically looks like a guy that thinks and acts like a top six player.
Yeah. I guess the idea is to have that extra little bit of leafy skill and then have some bangers around them so they can do everything. I don't know. In theory.
Can I just say that, just a quick Masters update?
He asks like there's a chance that we could say no.
Yeah, it's coming. Right?
Quick Masters update.
What do we got?
Tiger hooked one into the woods on 18.
Yeah.
Get some relief, little casual water at Augusta, which you don't see very often.
Was that how he got the free drop?
Yeah, a little casual
Almost
water.
back in the fairway.
Almost back in the fairway.
It
makes a par.
Makes a par.
Tiger Woods almost lost his leg 13 months ago. Hasn't played a round of competitive golf.
And shot 71.
And goes to the most prestigious golf course tournament in the world and goes and shoots a 71 and he's in the top 10.
But he's Tiger Woods. He's not us.
It doesn't matter. It's still unbelievable. I know he's Tiger Woods, but even for him, that's mind-blowing.
It is truly remarkable how differently, the type of different game he's had to play over the years. The power game, came back from the one car-related thing.
Yeah, there was a couple different things.
And this, it's...
And the crowds are off the charts.
Insane. It's insane. He's back.
They're
Tiger's back, baby.
Like they're 200 deep.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I know. It is the ultimate, like, no one cares about what these athletes do away from their field. Just do the thing you do.
Yes.
Say the line, Bart.
Yeah.
Tiger, just hit it, bud.
Do the fist pump, Tiger.
All right, we got a little bit more meat on the bone here before tonight's game. A name that we haven't really talked about that Gary Galley brought up is Andre Kasha.
Yeah, he's still on the team.
Like, quietly, this is turning into a very long stint.
Well, yeah, and not even like make a noise or he's skating or he's just sort of out of the public eye. So I assume he's having some serious side effects here. Without knowing what's going on, it's tough to be confident you're going to see him again this year.
This is also a guy the year before that got in all but 6-8 games because of a head injury. And here he is out with a head injury.
I don't think you can count on him being around.
Which, in many ways, can be slightly devastating for this team because he turned into a
huge contributor.
Big contributor.
Before his last injury, he scored in 3 straight games. Any line he's on, he makes better. I mean, you saw him playing with Nylander, hitting a one-timer in the Heritage Classic. He's a worker. He kills penalties. He's awesome hockey player.
You forget how important he was.
Yeah, he makes a big difference when he's in.
He was very good for them for a long stretch of the season.
Down to where you want them in the lineup.
100%.
There was always, though, that hung over any general manager's head to give this guy an opportunity or a contract.
That's why he's in the bargain bin.
Right?
And I don't mean that in disrespect to the talent, but that's why he's cheap. Anyone could have had him. because the injury thing. I wrote an article in December called "Can Andre Kasha be available for the Leafs in playoffs?" And I wrote it when he was healthy.
Yeah. Like that was the given.
Yeah.
And to a lesser extent, Peter Mrazek too had a reputation
for sure
for being a guy that can find himself on the IR list.
Yep. And it's a thing, man. And it's not an accusation that someone fakes it or isn't tough enough. We are made differently. Some people, your body construction, and some people they break easier. It's the truth.
It's a gamble that looked pretty good for Kyle Dubas. And for Leaf fans, you got to just hope that it can still look like a smart, calculated bargain pickup, as you refer to it.
Yeah. And that's what you're looking for in a salary cap era is how do you find a market inefficiency? How do you find someone below, market value? And one of the ways is this guy's injured a lot, but if he's not injured, he sure is good. And then you just cross your fingers. That's what happened here. You want to look at the West playoffs?
Yeah. Sammy, you got anything more before we go on to some other things, including Doug Wilson resigning from the San Jose Sharks?
Former champion Dustin Johnson, now at 3 under. No, I got nothing else. We can go on to the West.
I do know someone who bet on him.
DJ really
he's
3 under?
Minus 3 under. He's minus 3. And
that's where my money's at, DJ.
This is my last gambling thing before we go. I have a bet that pays a lot of money that says him leading after the first round and to win the tournament at 100-1. So
100-1.
I'm hoping that he leads after this. So there we go.
All right, go DJ, go. All right, Doug Wilson.
Yeah, I don't think we are really surprised here. Here's a guy that left in November. Was stated for some health issues.
Right.
So
this is presumably related.
You would assume.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough to look at the Sharks situation right now. So I don't know what's going on with Doug Wilson. So I'm not going to speculate there, but I can look at the San Jose Sharks position in the West, and that cap friendly page sure is messy. Like whoever's going to take this team over, tough to see a way they quickly turn it around with, the Carlson deal and the Burns deal and the Vlasic deal, and Couture's been effective, but boy, there's some long, big money tied up to a team that's not winning enough.
I just, first of all, we hope that Doug Wilson's okay and on a road to recovery, but you can't help but talk about some of those decisions that those forks in the road where the biggest one for me was the decision to go after Erik Karlsson.
Mm-hmm.
That one, to me, was the one where, while everybody could argue at the time that you're getting one of the best, most skilled defensemen in the National Hockey League or in the world, Norris Trophy winner, the first thing I thought of is, okay, where does that fit in with Brent Burns?
Yeah,
is like two right-handed shots.
You can have one of those guys,
but like, I'm a big believer of the alpha dog.
Yeah.
And Brent Burns was the alpha dog on that blue line. And then it was like, no, you're going to get kind of not pushed aside maybe, but just know that you're going to have to share a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it just never, for me, it never made sense.
$20 million between the two of them. And you only need one guy to run your power play. You only need one guy that takes massive risks up the ice offensively. Anyway, it's a bit of a messy situation.
It is. And then what's that, Sammy?
Maybe they could put him back at forward, Brent Burns.
Try
him back up there.
I don't know. The other thing that I could conclude is maybe it's just Brent Burns just one too many chocolate bars. Like I'm watching every night him jamming chocolate bars.
I love his commercials.
And I'm like, it's like bacon. You can't eat it every day. It just catches up to you.
Kipper, you see me. I have one a day before the show. I'm Barry. We'll see how.
Yeah, but you're 29 years old.
I'm 39.
Oh, 39. Oh, those will catch up to you, too.
They're coming. They're coming. So we wanted to talk about the Western Conference playoffs because we've been giving a lot of attention to the East, the Leafs situation, obviously. But when the Leafs win the Western or the Eastern Conference championship, Sammy, they're going to have to play someone from the West.
Yeah, correct.
So we'll just taking a quick look at the way things stack up there. Here's how, if things were to start today, you'd have Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, St. Louis, Calgary, Nashville, Edmonton, Los Angeles. But Las Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights had won 5 straight before a loss last night. And very likely, I think likely, to find a way into that 8th seed, which would be Colorado, Vegas, which would be Vegas with Mark Stone, with Alec Martinez, Robin Leonard's back. They're starting to roll. Like, how messed up would that be for Colorado if they get handed the Vegas Golden Knights healthy in round 1?
So you're saying Dallas out, Vegas in?
Well, there's a few ways you can shuffle this. The Kings aren't safe. The Kings are up 4 points on Vegas and the same amount of games played. And Vegas is rolling a little bit here. There's 10 games left. Like, there's a chance for Vegas to climb into 3rd in the Pacific, in which case you'd get Edmonton, Vegas. The Oilers are praying that doesn't happen.
So
I like Vegas.
And you like Edmonton. I mean, Kings are only 1 point.
I like Edmonton to get in.
Kings are only 1 point behind Edmonton. I mean, are you not foregone conclusion Edmonton's in and LA's going to be the team that
well, it's a 5-point gap, but they have one. I think they have an extra game in hand. Like, it just feels like Edmonton is in a lot better spot.
I'm not arguing with it. I'm
11 games left. I think Edmonton, not worried about them getting in. It's more for me who they're going to play. And boy,
tonight can go a long
swing.
way in helping paint that picture.
Toronto beats Dallas. Things tighten up for Dallas, and
100%.
Including their bum holes.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the Leafs absolutely spank them last time? They were here, Sammy?
Yeah.
It wasn't even close.
And it was one of those games where we came in the next day, we're like, boy, the Stars stank. Yeah, but I think it's a really awesome test for them, for the Leafs tonight, because this is a massive game. All the games are huge for the Stars,
Dallas,
but all the game, like I said, all the games are big for them, but we talk about those Southern teams that are desperate for a little bit more gate revenue from the playoffs and whatever. A lot on the line with all these games. They have 10 left, I think they have 12 left, so a lot on the line for them. So they're going to get a desperate team. Good test for the Leafs.
The power rankings of NHL teams that would get abused in a Canadian market, the Stars are
number
numero
1.
uno.
Agree.
Head and shoulders above the rest. It's not even close. You got Seguin and Ben making 9.85 and 9.5 for 40 points in 68 games each.
Yeah, Thanks
for coming out.
Underwhelming numbers.
And do you know when Seguin makes 9.8 this year, next year, the next year, the next year, the next year, and the next year? He makes it till 2027.
Wow, really?
You
5 more
know,
years.
you have to know, and I think Marty referred to it with the ownership group, Tom Ghilardi, that if they miss, this thing's getting blown right up. And I don't know how.
That's an unmovable contract. Unmovable.
We've heard that on a number of occasions in the last 5 or 10 years.
Unmovable.
Seguin's or Ben's?
Seguin's. Ben is done 2 years earlier at 9.5.
Yes, on the surface, but nothing is on the surface anymore. You find
he also has a no move.
Trust me, if it's looking like Dallas is not going to bring Seguin a championship anytime soon, I think he'd be fine to move on.
Seguin would. Okay, yeah.
And you're going to invite another team into the equation.
Share
some money around. It is movable. It just takes creativity. But something's going to give there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so those deals are something. Radulov's making 6.25 for 4 goals this year in 62 games. The top scorers or the top defensemen, not saying anything about them as players, but they are skill guys in Klingberg and Heiskanen. I'm just saying for teams who would get killed in a Canadian market, they have all the pieces that would get absolutely lit up. But anyway, so they do have fortunately for them, in the face of those guys, they have such good secondary players. That Roope Hintz has 30 goals this year, fellas.
He's a good player.
Oh, and he's fast and he kills penalties. And he makes $3 million. Like, that's a valuable guy. Robertson, 32 goals. Pavelski's a point per game guy. Gurianov's a great player for them. They have tons of guys farther down the lineup that are bailing out Seguin, Ben, and Radulov.
How important tonight's game for Jack Campbell, because he comes in, does a great job against Tampa Bay, forced to come in cold against Florida, and now right back in, win again under solid circumstances, and the momentum continues for him. But if it doesn't, how important is this game for him?
It's big, and here's what's going to happen. The Leafs are going to stink. The Leafs are going to stink tonight, and Jack's bailing them out. This is going to be the big.
Why do you say they're going to stink tonight? I think they're going to be really solid tonight.
Oh, they're in Dallas, right?
Yes.
Okay, that helps. There's reason to focus a little bit more and get geared up. I feel like them coming off all the Eastern Conference teams, the potential playoff opponents, this is the first chance to be like, not really an interesting team, that's Western Conference.
I see it the opposite. I see them focused after blowing a 5-1 lead.
Okay.
I would hope they're embarrassed a little bit off of it, and they'll come in focused and charged.
Okay. And so for Jack, I think Jack's going to play well tonight. This is the organization that drafted him, if I'm not mistaken. Dallas Stars, right?
Correct.
To go by Marty Turco, come on, look around the room. There's no one else there. It's your team. It's your job. It's your opportunity to prove that you are a $5 million goalie.
Yeah.
Or get to a conference final at 6.
No chance. No chance he can get back there. Oh, Kyper, after this year, you think there's a chance he can get back to those numbers?
Numbers have nothing to do with it. Team advancing has everything to do with it.
Yeah. They have team success.
I don't care what the numbers are. Just get them to a conference final.
Yeah.
You know that your numbers will be good enough to support the argument that you should now be paid a top level goalie.
Mm-hmm.
A conference final would do that for Jack.
Man, this guy, every time the puck drops, his bank account, $1 million swings.
Led by us.
Yeah.
Leading that charge.
It is
all
a
right,
big
do
swing.
we have any Leaf best bets tonight, JB?
You can get the Dallas Stars plus 130, and they're at home. I don't like betting against the Leafs often. You guys have heard me every show this year, but tonight I'd throw a couple bucks on.
Okay. Our thanks to Marty Turco, Gary Galley, and Colby Armstrong. One final note: tomorrow, Real Kyper and Bourne will go 10 a.m. Eastern.
Yes.
On Sportsnet 590, The Fan. Of course, on our YouTube Sportsnet channel as well. And make sure keep downloading our fine podcast wherever you can. Our thanks to Derek, Jennifer, Sam, and JB, as always, man. Have a great night.
You too, buddy. Enjoy the rest of the Masters.
Thanks for watching and listening. Real Kyper and Bourne.